Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. Check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 18 plus. Please play responsibly. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I am joined by Harmon Dial, and we are coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealers Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Harm, people want to know. We talked about baseball tryout this past weekend. You and Jacob, technical producer, Jacob Lazar. I was there. You guys were both phenomenal. You went with the muscle shirt. I thought that was a bold move. And I'll tell you, so I was there scouting with some of my teammates. And one of my teammates, I said, "Oh, that's my buddy over there with the blue glove." And he goes, "Oh, muscles?" And that's what they've been calling you, just so you know. Muscles. That's your new
That's so
nickname.
funny. I had no idea. But you know what? It may have been tactical, I'm not gonna lie. To try out
Nice.
showcase situation, you got to show that you're athletic. It's all perception. And so yeah, I in general too, like when I go to the gym, I like training with the tank top. When you put all that effort in to lift weights, you want to see the pump on your arms. So I'm not gonna be ashamed about it. I like wearing tanks when the weather's nice, especially when you're running around a lot. So I had no idea that was the nickname though. That's pretty funny.
Your tactic worked. Your tactic worked, and I'm hoping you end up on our team. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Jacob also had a really good showcase. Both of you did really well. I will also say that was like the best group I've. Well, I've only been there 2 years, but that was the best group I'd ever seen. Like in my year when I went, I was one of the best players, and I'm not that much better than most of the people that were out there. At that tryout, you guys had a good pool of players. That league might be taking a step up. My average might be dropping from in the 400s. It might be dropping to like 270 or something. So we'll see. We'll see how this year goes, and we'll be sure to keep people updated. Chat's quiet, so hopefully we're able to change that by telling everybody about our Super Chat charity partner, the BC Mental Health Foundation. If you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Harm, a weekend for the Vancouver Canucks in which they lose to the St. Louis Blues. Now, what honestly, like I always say, what are your thoughts on this game? What do you want to talk about? Again, I just want to talk about Zeev Buium. I thought Zeev Buium had another good game. I liked what he did. Canucks as a whole did not have a good game. Territorially, just absolutely dominated by the Blues, especially through the first 40 minutes. Like that was a tough one to watch.
Yeah, and I think it's important to clarify that this Blues team is different than pre the Olympic break, right? Where the first of all, two things have changed. One, the Thomas Holloway combination has been absolutely cooking, and that's what we expected heading into the season, right? Is both of those guys to drive the bus for the Blues offensively. Both of them had underwhelming, injury plagued, in and out of the lineup type performances up until the Olympic break, but since then they've been absolutely phenomenal. And they've gone back to producing at a really high level. And then secondly, their goaltending, which was the worst in the NHL heading into the Olympic break, is suddenly the best in the NHL since we've come back from that Olympic break. If you look at goals saved above expected, so all of a sudden you have those two things going. And this Blues team, they've been red hot over the last month or so. And I think specifically too, one of my big takeaways from that game is Jimmy Snuggerud is going to be such a good player, man.
Yeah.
He's got 12 points in his last 12 games. He's got such a quick, nasty release on his shot. He had 5 shots on goal in that game, and all of them he was able to A, get off so quickly, and B, just generate so much power on those looks. Lankinen had to make a couple of terrific stops on him. He had 2 disallowed points as well. The shot that he went bar down on, where I believe it was Holloway that ran the goalie interference, and then another chance where shot leaked through. I think another Blue touched it in. That was called back as well because he knocked it down with the high stick. He's, I think, gone under the radar when we talk about one of the best rookies in this class, where missed a little bit of time because of injury, but 52 points per 82 games is his pace as a 21-year-old rookie. It wouldn't surprise me if next year or in year 3 in the NHL, he has a Cutter Gauthier type breakout as one of these volume shooters, especially as a sniper when he's got Robert Thomas to set him up. So that was on the Blues side important to clarify. It's not like you're getting dominated by the version of the Blues that was so miserable for most of the season. And then secondly, yeah, from a Canucks perspective, even with that contact, tough time controlling play, just 8 shots on goal through the first 2 periods. I will say one of the positives is Rossi keeps exceeding my expectations on the left flank on the power play, especially the look that they had in the first period. I like the sequence where he made the little slip pass to DeBrusk for a look in the bumper, and then he had a good look himself seconds later that was stopped by Binnington. That's one of the silver linings. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, a lot of these losses are just kind of blending together.
Okay, I want to take a quick look at the NHL standings. And I did also want to talk about this Montreal Canadiens game, but I think we'll get to that in anyone else. I'm sure Jacob will have some thoughts on that. But the NHL standings, you mentioned the West playoff race, pillow fight, as Connor McDavid called it over the weekend, which I think is a really good way to put it. The Blues are like still kind of kicking, which is crazy to say, but like we were talking about them as like, oh, could they challenge the Canucks for 32nd place? We were having that conversation. And then, like you said, they're one of the hotter teams in the league right now. 67 points through 69 games. They're knocking on the door. Like, they're knocking on the door. The Nashville Predators hold the second wildcard spot with 75 points. And the reason that Connor McDavid called it a pillow fight was because he was asked about, after a loss, that every team in the Pacific lost as well. So no ground was lost. The Oilers keep losing and no ground is being lost for the Oilers. And I thought that was a really interesting quote from Connor McDavid. And the reason I bring this up is that there is a real possibility, Harm, that the Mammoth and the Predators, wildcard 1 and wildcard 2, finish with more points than the Oilers, and the Oilers or the Golden Knights, and those teams still make the playoffs because they play in the Pacific Division, which is crazy. Right now, LA's at 73 points. Seattle's lost 3 straight. They're at 71 points. The Oilers are holding the third spot in the division with 77, and right in front of them with 78 points is the Vegas Golden Knights. So the Oilers are right there with the Golden Knights, and both of those wildcard teams could end up being from the Central, and both of them could have more points in the standings than 2 divisional teams coming out of the Pacific. At the GM meetings, and the reason I have a point to all of this, at the GM meetings, there was talk about the standings, and Bettman pushed back really hard on the thought that there was any problem with the standings and the playoff the playoff format. And I just think if you're gonna have 2 wildcard teams, both with better records than 2 division teams, that's broken. Like, I think your system's broken if that's the case.
Well, also, you can make a case that the 3 best teams in the league right now, or maybe if you want to include Tampa in that conversation, the 4 best teams in the league in terms of on paper cup contenders, that 3 of them are in the same division with Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. And because of the divisional playoff format, you're going to end up in a situation where you're likely looking at Dallas, Minnesota round 1, and one of those teams gets knocked out in the first round. And Bettman pushed back on this idea and said, well, we have the best first round of any major sport in North America. And while that's true, I still think you'd have a great first round with 1 to 8, because I think part of the reason why the first round of the playoffs is so electric is because there are 8 series going on at the same time. So if you have a dud, if you have a blowout game during one slate, there's still so many other games on that same night that you're likely to still get one game that captivates your attention. Whereas it's by the time you get to round 2 and round 3 where, okay, if there's only 1 or 2 games on a given night and one of them ends up being a dud, then it seems a little bit more boring just because you don't have other options to watch. My point being, if you go from 1 to 8, I still think you're going to have an electric first round.
Yeah.
And I think both the fans and players generally are on board with going back to the 1 to 8 format. I did a story a couple off seasons ago, an NHL fan poll, and I think it was somewhere between 70 to 80% of NHL fans prefer 1 to 8 versus the divisional format. And then players as well. We've had, I think, Sidney Crosby on record saying that he prefers 1-8. Others have spoken about it. So I really hope that whenever Bettman is gone as commissioner, that one of the first moves the NHL makes is switching back to 1-8.
So I'll jump in here. If it was 1-8, you'd have the same 8 teams in the West in the playoffs, but this is how they're actually ranked right now. Now, the old NHL 1-8 format wouldn't have actually followed this because the division winners got seeds 1, 2, and 3. So Dallas and Minnesota would actually be the 4 and 5, which interestingly enough, they'd still be playing each other in the first round if that were the case, that was back when there was 3 divisions. So currently they'd actually be 3rd and 4th. So they wouldn't have to play each other. My bad there. But as you can see, this would reward a team like Dallas with an Edmonton Oilers team that's been struggling, that has no goaltending, a team that Dallas really should be able to beat instead of having to play the Minnesota Wild. Look at what the Wild get. Instead of having to go on the road to Dallas with no home ice advantage, they now get home ice advantage over Vegas, another team that just, we know that they've been good in previous years, but this season that Vegas Golden Knights team doesn't look, they don't look like they're going to do damage. And then Anaheim, who at this point could end up winning the Pacific, well, they got to deal with Utah, a team who is arguably better than them, which, hey, in the current format, that would be the same matchup, but at least now it's 4-5, which just feels more fitting for what those teams have earned over an 82-game season.
This is how it should be. This is just how it should be. And you laid out those playoff formats, and it goes back to what Harmon just said. You wouldn't be entertained by a Dallas-Edmonton first-round matchup? Like, that'd be great.
And the main point, what Jacob was getting to, it rewards teams for having a better regular season.
Yes.
And whereas now it just kind of devalues things. And I also was so sick and tired of 4 or 5 years in a row of Edmonton, LA in the first round. And I think the idea was, okay, if you get the divisional playoff format, you'll end up with these teams facing each other in the playoffs again and more rivalries. And sure, we got that with Tampa and Florida to some degree, but I think it's been offset by the fatigue we had of Edmonton, LA, and just knowing what the final outcome was going to be.
And I'll jump in again because the NFL's format is kind of similar, where division winners get home field. The 1 seed gets the bye, and then the other 3 division winners get home field for the wild card round, and then there's 3 wild card teams. Well, we ran into the same thing in the NFL this year, where the NFC West was what the Central Division is, where the 3 best teams in the league were all in the same division. So you had Seattle, who won the division, ended up going on to win the Super Bowl. It came down to the last week of the season. It was exciting, sure, but the Rams and 49ers, who were arguably the 2nd and 3rd best teams in the league, didn't get a home playoff game, which again, you're now devaluing the entire season when the 2nd best team in your league doesn't get home field in the playoffs. It makes no sense. And I understand it made for interesting matchups, but it's the playoffs. Harm, you mentioned it, Quads. You will get interesting matchups no matter what because it's the playoffs. Yeah. And I'd much rather see a long season, especially in the case of the NHL, 82 games, be rewarded for teams that have earned higher seeds rather than just being forced to be a wild card because of how the divisions line up or to be given home ice advantage because you're in a weak division.
100%. 84 games too, starting soon. So yeah, all well said, guys. All well said. It's why I wanted to bring it up. And speaking of the standings, both the Canucks and the Abbotsford Canucks have been eliminated from playoff contention. I don't know how to look this up. Jacob, figure it out. Has there ever been an AHL team and their NHL team getting eliminated from the playoffs within 24 hours of each other?
I can't even begin to think how to look that up.
I know.
I would say it's very unlikely, especially because almost every team in the AHL makes the playoffs these days.
Yeah. Well, not the Abbotsford Canucks, which sucks. They win the Calder Cup. And then they have a lot of their guys graduate, which is a huge credit to Manny Malhotra and his staff, but just not a ton of firepower down on that Abbotsford team right now. But it's funny though, you talk to guys from Abbotsford and none of them are talking about, oh, it's such bad vibes in Abbotsford. There's a real sense of, hey guys, this is the hand we've been dealt. All we can do is play hard. There's a real sense of that from Manny Malhotra and a real positivity that's kind of going through the rest of that team. So I found that interesting when I've had conversations with a couple guys down in Abbotsford, and Yeah. Anyways, yeah, Canucks eliminated from playoff contention, both at the NHL and the AHL level. Here I was thinking they'd pull it off at the NHL level, but no, mathematically eliminated as of yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, for Abbotsford, I think in the AHL, generally speaking, there's just naturally going to be more turnover, right? Because some guys have a strong enough year, like Sammy Blais did, where they're going to have options to sign contracts with NHL teams. Players like Phil DiGiuseppe are going to, again, try and find opportunities in new organizations where they feel they maybe have a chance to compete for a roster spot, even if they don't make it full time. And then you combine that with certain young players graduating and injuries. And then if your NHL team runs into a bunch of injuries, as the Canucks did, then a lot of your best players from the AHL team are getting called up, which we saw a ton of, especially in the first half of the season. And then on top of that, a guy like Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, who at the American League level would be an elite scorer, he gets hurt and he's shuttled up and down between the NHL and AHL. So it was just a weird year where Abbotsford, whether it was, Shilov's obviously, like that's another prime example of, because of the waiver situation, Canucks had to trade him to Pittsburgh for the fear that somebody else would claim him if they put him on waivers. So just all those things coming together, you had a ton of turnover from that championship team, and a lot of things breaking against them.
Yeah, 7-7 in the chat said Abbotsford got screwed with all the Vancouver injuries. Beer Parent said Abbotsford missed because all of the Abbotsford Canucks are playing for the Vancouver Canucks. Well said. I like this. There's lots of stuff going in the chat. And Spatzilli said starting to forget that Lecker-Mackey exists. Shoulder surgery. Again, we're hoping he's going to be ready for training camp. All right, I want to change gears a bit here, Harm. We're going to have Tyson Cole join us, associate editor over at Canucks Army. We're going to have him join us in a matter of moments. But the reason I want to change gears before that is that Tyson spoke with Zeev Buium at, I think, Friday's practice. Tyson will correct me if I'm wrong. But Friday's practice out at UBC, Tyson spoke with Zeev for like 15, 20 minutes. And got tremendous quotes, and I'm sure you've read them. A lot of people have, apparently, over at CanucksArmy.com. The title of the article is Why Zeev Buium Believes He and Other Canucks Youngsters Can Reshape the Culture. Phenomenal headline by Tyson. But some of the quotes I want to dive into, and I just want to set up the quotes before we start to talk to Tyson about that conversation, his takeaways, and all that sort of stuff. I just want to read some of the quotes. This was the one that really, really stood out to me, was when he was talking about the culture, which again, that's a big buzzword, right? That's a big buzzword, with this team and with this organization. But basically, excuse me, what Tyson asked was, how do you get everybody pulling on the same rope? How do you start to not get lost? How do you not to have those breakdowns that they had? I think it was in the context of the Tampa game. And this is what Buium said. He said, I really do think a lot of it is culture. My U17 year at NTDP, we won 5 games. We were the worst team ever. Seriously, the stats are out there. And then the next year, we were the best team of all time. We had the best power play, best PK. All of our centers had the best faceoff percentage. We had the most goals for, the least goals against. We won the championship at the end of the year. We won 14 straight games against college teams, which is unheard of. And it wasn't a different team. It's not like we became so much bigger and stronger the next year. I think the fact that we became a team, we became brothers, we actually cared for each other, we wanted to see each other succeed. You want to do it for the guy next to you. When you do all that and you care so much about winning, like when I was at Denver, the biggest thing was every guy there I loved. The coaches I loved. Everybody loved everybody. The biggest thing was we didn't want to disappoint each other, and losing was disappointing. I think now he's talking about the Canucks, need to get to that point. Right now, it's tough because I think everybody wants to do that, but at the same time, you're young. You want to prove yourself. There's a lot of other things going on. It's been here. A lot of things have gone on. Yeah, here, a lot of things have gone on the last 2 years. I think now that that's kind of settled down, we're finding that in our team. You can see the culture shifting into something bigger and better, and everyone's on board.
First of all, not only Buium, but also Verlander and Ogren, these guys have been so impressive to me in terms of how they carry themselves. The confidence and swagger with Buium and Verlander especially. I remember the 2023 draft combine in Buffalo, that's when I first heard rumblings that the Canucks might have interest in Verlander. And so I remember being at the Harbor Center in Buffalo, the hotel there. There's a restaurant at the top level, and then there's a bunch of rooms where NHL teams are interviewing these prospects. And so the prospects are coming in and out. And so Verlander was coming out of his set of interviews. I flagged him down, introduced myself, and just wanted to chit chat with him, wanted to confirm whether the Canucks actually took him out to dinner. And just that conversation right away, I was like, oh man, this is one confident kid and not cocky, right? Some guys are like, they carry themselves with swagger, but there's a level of entitlement to them, or a sense that they think they're better than others. With Verlander, it was, he's confident, he's so sure of himself, but he still comes across as grounded and hardworking. And my immediate thought was, he must have aced all his interviews, and when the Canucks took him out to dinner, he must have left a fantastic impression. And I think we've seen that same thing here. The other thing too is, with young players, you look for accountability, right?
Yeah.
When they make mistakes, do they own up to it? Do they recognize that there's a higher level for them? And I remember reading a story that Joe Smith wrote at The Athletic really early in the season when Buium was making defensive mistakes. And Buium was very honest about saying, hey, I think I can be better. I've made some mistakes, but also not getting too down on himself. And it was okay. There's accountability to his game where he's not blaming external forces. And I think Verlander's got that accountability part as well. So I think both of these guys are going to be terrific leaders in the future. Now, the challenge for the Canucks, though, when it comes to this idea of building a culture, right? Because as you said, culture is a buzzword. You need some level of on-ice success to have a good culture, right? You could have the best leaders in the locker room, but if you're getting pumped every single night for a stretch of, let's say, 4 to 5 years, it's going to be tough to get your culture to where you want it to be. I think Buium and Verlander, in terms of how they're going to set the culture, it's going to be, I think, most relevant to me hopefully a few years from now, when there is an injection of more talent and when you can see, all right, the Canucks are a team on the rise. Maybe they've added McKenna or Stenberg, maybe in the future, DuPont, and you can start to see the young core coming together. And then at that point, hopefully Buium and Verlander have taken steps and are some of the best players on this team as well. That's when they're also going to have the weight and the authority to set the standard. That's when the difference in culture really matters and is going to propel your team's results forward. That's where I think the last core at times we didn't see that side. Where were they always pushing to become the best versions of themselves? Were they holding themselves to the highest level of accountability and to professionalism? The defensive habits. And that's where I think the last core, they had such a tough time getting together that JT Miller had to be traded. It resulted in the breakup of this entire core, right? And so that's where at least the hope is, if you're the Canucks, 3 to 4 years from now, you've got some more talent and you've got some of those building blocks in place. You're hoping that Buium and Verlander can be the catalysts as leaders. And that, I think, is when they're really going to be able to set the culture.
Yeah, and I'd also say the more veterans that, I don't want to even call them problematic. I'm not even going to go down that road, but just the more veterans that were part of the problematic room, no matter what their role in it was, the more of those guys you can get out and start to hand the reins over to these guys. And also, you know who I'm not really talking about? I'm excluding from that conversation, Filip Hronek. You go read that article from Tyson with Buium. Count how many times you see Filip Hronek's name mentioned. Again, doesn't talk a ton to the media. He's been doing it lately, but maybe setting up for a captaincy announcement for next season. But all of these young guys, the amount that they talk about Phil on the ice, off the ice, how much he's helping them. We heard the story from Max Sassone about Phil going to him on the plane and saying, like, hey, how did you get that culture in Abbotsford? What was different about Abbotsford than Vancouver? Having the care level to even go do that. Like, I've got time. I've got tons of time for Filip Hronek. That's certainly not the part of the group that I'm talking about when I say you can expedite this process of getting these kids the room by just getting rid of some of the older guys, the guys that were here before. But they still need guidance, and that's why you have guys like Filip Hronek around. Anything else you wanted to say about that before we get to Tyson, who we're going to talk about this with more?
No, let's get to Tyson.
All right. Tyson Cole, associate editor over at Canucks Army, joins us now. He's a presentation of our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. You can skip the line and not have to pay cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 for select drinks, and more. With the arcade, bar, and street food menu, Greta's a great spot. Make it your spot to watch the next game. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Tyson Cole joins us now. And Tyson, we just talked about some of your Buium quotes, and I want to talk to you about that interview specifically. But one thing that also stood out to me about this young group is we saw Liam Ogren and Linus Karlsson acting. We've seen Patrick Alvin acting for the content team. Like, they are acting for the content team. I can't remember anyone from the last score ever putting on an act like that. It was hilarious. It was great. They put it on the social platforms. And I really wanted to just mention that. But Tyson, just kind of your reaction to your conversation with Buium, anything that stood out, all that sort of stuff.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I got to be honest, I didn't think I'd ever come back on Convo after I gave Harm the false information. So happy to be here. Yeah, I mean, just such a well-spoken kid. Like, it was such a good conversation. I went into that conversation because I saw after the Tampa game, it was just Buium and Willander just staring blankly ahead, looking at the open sheet of ice after the 6-2 loss. Like, they were disappointed. They were pissed off, and I just wanted to ask them about that. And then he was such a good talker that it just spiraled into this whole thing about the culture and playing the right way and all that. And I mean, you guys read it. Like, the quotes that he gave me were just absolutely great. You read one of them, Quads. And I mean, he talked about connection a lot and like being connected. And you see a Tampa team like that, they play so connected. They know where each other are without even thinking. And the Canucks need to get that way. And he explained how. And it was more about like developing that connection off the ice with your teammates. Like he mentioned, becoming not just teammates, but best friends and brothers. And one thing that stood out to me is that in his U17 season with the NTDP, like, he would have all these guys over. He would host his team just so they could talk with each other. Didn't have to be about hockey. Didn't have to be about anything. It was just building that camaraderie and hanging out together. And that just stood out to me. Like, as a teenager, you're seeing this guy take that extra step to make sure that the team is well connected. And I mean, I put this out. After our conversation, I was like, yeah, I think Zeev Buium is my next pick for captain. I got a lot of flack for that. I'm not saying right now, but I'm just saying after you hear him talk like that, you could see him have those qualities that come in an NHL captain.
You touched on it a little bit there when you mentioned how Buium was speaking about being connected and off the ice, building those bonds. It really has felt like him and Willander and some of these other young guys, Ogren, have began building that bond and becoming genuinely close, which I know teams always talk about, oh, we're brothers in here and we're all tight, but that's not always the case. I mean, let's be honest. We've covered some of these Canucks teams in the past, and it's felt a little bit cliquey where certain guys have had their friends on the team, and not that they've actively disliked other guys on the team per se, other than maybe one instance and one feud. But it's more that
think of one.
they haven't like mingled with everybody, right? It hasn't felt like one connected group. Do you feel like these young guys are coming together as kind of one group?
Yeah, I think it's definitely started. And I talked to him about, it does feel like it's becoming a closer team because you're seeing more videos come out, like Quads mentioned, about the acting and stuff. And it seems like everybody's getting more along. And so I asked him about that. And he was talking about, you see the young guys doing something. And if the young guys are out there doing it, then that's going to get the older guys to do it. And then they can all come together as one and form the team, right? And so now I definitely see it that, it's been so negative around the team for a few years now, right? And so this instillment of youth coming into the team where they're having fun, they're laughing, whereas like, a lot of the vets haven't been doing that for a long time because it's just been miserable around here. You see that, and then now you're starting to get the vets kind of come out of their shell and, operate with the young guys and have fun with the young guys. So it does definitely look like that kind of behind the scenes, whether or not it's translate on the ice.
Tyson, one thing that was really interesting in your article, there's a lot, but the pointing out, and I know you and I were talking about this, which is why it was in the article, but we were both pretty stunned to learn that after that game against the Blues, Buium's officially played more NHL games for the Canucks than he did with the Wild. Like that's a crazy, wild, you might say, stat to just read and know about. So with that in mind, you talk about these relationships. He seems so passionate about being a Canuck and being here. He talked to you about Tom Willander. Did you have any takeaways about just his relationship that he's already built with Tom Willander in his short time here?
Well, I've had a conversation with him in the past about, and he mentioned Tom right away. So I know that they do have that connection. They played against each other for a few years, like battling against each other in the NCAA. And now I, just touch on it with him, like, oh, how nice is it to be his teammate now, blah, blah, blah. And it does seem like they have a great connection off the ice. He mentioned that him and Tom hang out all the time, and they bounce ideas off each other, and it's good to have that as young guys, kind of in new situations for both of them, where there's some things that Zeev wants to get better at that Tom does well, and vice versa. Then they can just bounce ideas off of each other. And I mean, you see videos like, do you remember the Dyson Ice video where Zeev's playing Shell and Villander's like, oh yeah, they were just going back and forth. Like you could see that they actually are friends. And I mean, today after practice, they were dropped the gloves a little bit and like play fought, practice fighting on the ice. So you can definitely see it. You see it in the room, and it's good that they have each other because Zeev mentioned that they have a lot of the same goals and aspirations. They mentioned that they want to bring a Stanley Cup to Vancouver. Obviously, every hockey player wants to do that, but yeah, it's important that they have each other is what I really got from Zeev's conversation with me.
Okay, quick follow. Did you say they were fighting after practice?
Little bit, yeah. It was him, DPD, and Willander, and DPD was like coaching them. They dropped the gloves, they dropped the gloves, they shed the helmet, and then they were like going like this, and then they finally squared up, and they were just throwing, like, they weren't actually punching each other. Yeah. But I mean, it was so fun and those are the only three guys on the ice. Those guys are out there having fun, and they just got eliminated from the playoffs yesterday. Like, that's so awesome to see with this young culture.
That's awesome.
Shifting to what we've noticed on the ice, because you and I have sat in the press box for a lot of these games next to one another. Mm-hmm. Marco Rossi's been a player that's really turned a corner lately, been producing a lot of points. What have you noticed about his game and why you believe he's clicking lately?
Well, I do think it's all about kind of finding the right line mates, right? And also, when he first got here, he was coming off the injury, first time being traded, like change of atmosphere. It was a big trade, and I mean, shocked him, right? Like going from a Stanley Cup contender to, a rebuilding team, that's got to be difficult for anybody. So finding his footing, and then, well, funny enough, he got a foot injury, and then he was off for a little bit. So now finding those right line mates with Ogren and Besser, like they find a way to complement each other, all three of them, which is good. And that's really unlocked something in Rossi. Like, what is he up to, 6-game point streak now? And something I've noticed, I mean, with him is like, I wouldn't say that line has a play driver, but Rossi would definitely seem to be the leader in that. And just him finding his playmaking ability is really what helped, the line succeed and do so well. Like I have this stat. They've been, over the last 5 games, Canucks have scored 13 goals. One of the 3 line mates have been in on 10 of those 13 goals. So they're really driving play for this entire Canucks team lately, and that's led by Rossi.
The bro line. Speaking of Rossi, all right? Mm-hmm. The bro line. Harmon was going to try to tell you that Liam Ogren and these guys are shooting something about shooting percentage. I don't ever buy it. I'm always shocked when they come down. But how much fun is it to watch the bro line work right now?
Well, it's fun. I mean, they all bring an added element that it's like to the line, which makes it work. Like I mentioned, like there isn't really a true play driver, but because they complement each other so well, it just seems to work. Like you got Liam Ogren's speed and like tenacity on the forecheck. He can go dig pucks and get them to the more skilled guys, and Rossi and Besser. Rossi's the playmaker. Besser's a sniper, although It's kind of been opposite lately. Besser's the one picking up 3 assist games. Rossi's got 3 goals in his last few games. So, yeah, it's fun. And I don't care how they line up, who goes first. They're so clearly the top line of this team. Like, when's the last time you've seen Elias Pettersson jump over the ice and be like, oh, whoa, here we go at 5-on-5, you know? Like, it's Rossi, and when they need the offense, that's the line that they should be going to.
Tyson, you were at practice today. A couple different looks with the line combos, but just generally speaking, any other takeaways from practice?
Evander Kane's back on the top line. I know a lot of people were happy about that.
Pumped, just so excited about that.
Yeah. I get it. For game 1,000, bump him up there. Who cares? It's a lost season, but there's still 4 more games until we get to that point. So I don't know. I don't understand what's going on with Niels Höglander. It's just in and out and in and out. Like, how do you want him to find the consistency when you're not giving him consistent minutes? You're taking him in and out of the lineup. He skated it as an extra today. Sorry, I didn't mention that. Max Sasson was back on the line with Teddy Bluger and Linus Karlsson. Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with him, man. Like, I feel bad for him because he looked so good in training camp. Like, he came in shape. That injury derails his season, and he just wants to play. Like, he's so hungry. He's so hungry for pucks, but there's sometimes that he makes those bad decisions, right? Like, even last game when Rossi, great play, takes the hit to make the play, just shovels it over, gets bullied over. And then Höglander's in all alone, kind of along the wall, and Binnington comes so far out of his net to come challenge him, and there's nobody in front of him. And that's, I think, just him thinking, okay, I got to rip this puck through him, and he's getting a little too excited. Whereas if he took a second and looked at his surroundings, he would see that there's 2 Blues coming from the right side, and Binnington's so far out that if he fakes the slap shot and dekes over to the left, then he's got a wide open net and he can just bury it. But so it's just some of those decision making that he does sometimes that has kind of derailed the season. And so I guess that's why he's coming out of the lineup. But just tough one for him.
Tyson, just last one for me. We've seen Kevin Lankinen start to turn his season around a little bit, which is nice to see. When you look at the Canucks goaltending, specifically heading into next year, we talk about Nikita Tolopilo. You don't want to lose him on waivers. How do you see things kind of shaking down? Like, do you think they're going to try to look to move a goaltender this offseason? Do they enter with 3? Like, what do you think they're going to try to do this offseason?
Well, they're lucky because they just dealt with this last season, right, with Artur Silovs, and then they had to make the difficult decision to move off of him because they gave the other 2 extensions. And I don't think you want to do that here with Tolopilo, especially if you're, transitioning toward a rebuild. I think that you just have to run with 3 goalies on your roster next year. Like, I don't think there's any other way around it. Otherwise, you're going to lose Tolopilo for nothing if you put him on waivers, most likely. And I mean, let's be honest here. I don't think I'm going too far out on a limb to say that Demko might get hurt again next year. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to re-sign Patera for the AHL and bring him up? Do you think Ty Young's ready for a backup role? A Kukos-Kenvo? Like, I don't think so. So I think you're going to have to roll with three goalies.
Tyson, great job, man. This was a lot of fun. We will definitely have you back on the show. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
There he is, Tyson Cole, associate editor over at Canucks Army. And if you haven't read it yet, his story with Buium, kind of got mentioned on Hockey in Canada very vaguely, but really good article that a lot of people read. So go check it out. Why Zeev Buium believes he and other Canucks youngsters can change the culture. Good stuff. All right, let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of our friends at. Oh, before that, excuse me. We got a super chat. It's from Elfrin, and it's about our conversation from before about the NHL playoff format, and I 100% agree with him. This is what he said. It's $10 super chat. He said, the reason the NHL went with its current divisional format was to minimize travel issues, especially between Western Conference teams. I want the 1-8, 2-7 format back. Who cares about the travel issues? Canucks had to play Nashville. There's not much worse travel than that.
Yeah, exactly.
So your system did not work, Gary.
Well,
Right.
and look at the Atlantic Division. You have the 2 Florida teams in a division with the teams in the Northeast. Like, it's
Yeah.
very possible that you're going to get Montreal having to play Tampa in the first round. Like, that's some of the worst possible travel in the Eastern Conference. Like, it doesn't even solve the problem that they claimed it would.
Yeah, 100%. That's like, yeah, exactly. All right. Let's get to anyone else. Maybe we'll talk more playoffs. Anyone else is a presentation of our friends at Pacific Toyota Dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. Drive up 72 kilometers on battery alone, enough to get you from downtown to the rink, the grocery store, and home to recharge. Seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower style with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. Plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charge stations in BC alone. Visit shoptoyota.ca, your local Pacific Toyota dealer, during Red Tag days from March through May. I'll tell you, these gas prices right now, Jacob, book a Prius plug-in hybrid for my front door, please. Like, my gosh, 962 kilometers before you have to fill up. I don't like, I'm not on the highway all the time. I could easily live off just the electric and save some damn money on gas right now. It's crazy. Ridiculous.
Feels like 2022 all over again.
How high was it in 2022? I completely forgot.
I remember it getting up to like 230 at one point. Yeah.
Jacob, do you remember this? Why don't I remember this?
I remember.
What?
I don't know why you don't. I also remember during like the early days of the pandemic, I was doing some food delivery while finishing my university courses online, and it was great because gas was dirt cheap because no one was driving. Right? We're talking like March and April 2020. Gas was like under 80 cents a liter.
Or maybe it was 2023. But
no, you're right. You're right. You're right. I googled it. It was Russia-Ukraine conflict impact is what I'm reading here. And it was September 2022. The highest it ever got was 2.419 a liter. That's crazy. Why do I not remember that? I was driving even more back then.
I certainly remember.
I certainly complained about it on this podcast. I must have. Anyways, I don't know why I can't. Wow. I guess a lot of stuff's happened between now and then, but anyway. All right. Anyone else? Did anyone else catch the Montreal Canadiens versus New York Islanders game? Had a lot of hype heading into it. Obviously, Patrick Roy back in Montreal. New York really needed that game. They did not get it. I know Jacob's answer to this. Are you rooting for the Montreal Canadiens to win the Stanley Cup? Because I think I am. I think that's my team that I'm now just absolutely going to bandwagon. I'm going to paint my face red. I am loving the passionate fans at the Bell Center. Like, that was that had the biggest feel to it of a regular season game that I think I've watched this season. And maybe it was because Waugh was on the bench. I don't know what exactly it was, but that game it did not disappoint either. Cole Caulfield scores like 17 goals in the game. Absolutely ridiculous performance from Caulfield. Phenomenal goaltending for the Habs, just everything top to bottom. Like, they might be my team heading into the playoffs. That might be my pick to win it all.
What's fun about the NHL this year is there are multiple teams that are fun, young, and exciting, where they play high event rush-based hockey. So it's not just Montreal, right? You also have Buffalo in the East. And speaking of fire wagon hockey, last night I watched Ducks versus Sabres, and that was a phenomenal game. Ducks won it 6-5 in OT, but the Sabres scored 3 goals in the third period to take the lead, and then the Ducks tied it up within the last couple minutes. It was just back and forth, so much offense. So it's like you got the Canadians are so much fun to watch, but you also have the Sabres, and then you have the Ducks, and then you have the Blue Jackets. Some of the Utah Mammoth, these teams that love to play run and gun hockey, that like to attack off the rush. I think the biggest challenge and learning lesson for some of these teams is going to be how much of that rush offense is going to translate come playoff time. Because I think what we've learned over the last few years is sometimes these teams that are young, quick in transition, it's easier to shut them down come playoff time because the time and space in the neutral zone is so limited. And so the teams that can have a diversified offense and attack in multiple ways where they have a plan B to create off dump and chase and cycling, like you need that element. And so I think the most interesting part is going to be seeing, does Montreal have plan B if their rush game is taken away? Can they tighten up enough defensively? Where going back to that Sabres Ducks game, the broadcast for Buffalo did a great job of pointing out how the Ducks would have 3 players back quite often, defending entries, because they know Buffalo loves to drive control entries. And their broadcast did a great job pointing out how Buffalo was kind of adapting by, all right, if you're going to have 3 guys at the blue line, we're going to fly through the neutral zone with speed. But then when we get to the line, we're going to chip it to get behind you and try and win those foot races first. And so that was like an important adaptation, because I think the tendency for some teams in those situations is they still want to make the high skill play and they turn pucks over at the blue line. And that's where you're feeding the other team's transition attack as well. So I'm right there with you. Like, I want to see Montreal go far, and the East is wide open this year, but it also wouldn't surprise me if a team like Montreal, like they run into some growing pains with how does their offensive success translate to the playoffs, and especially because these teams also give up a lot defensively.
That's a really good point. Who do you think is the best example of a team that's really made that transition well? Like, in not just like recent years or last year, just like
Florida.
In your time watching hockey.
Florida, right? Like, and maybe they weren't as young, but when Andrew Brunette was coaching the team,
ooh, that's right. That's a good one.
Remember, they were pure rush, and they were
forgot about
winning
that.
President's trophies. And then I remember, I don't know if it was 2021 or 2022, but it was a year they had a phenomenal regular season. Round 1, they barely beat the Washington Capitals, right? It was worrying. I think they ultimately eliminated them in 6 games, but there was a while where it looked like Washington was going to take them down. This was when Washington was pretty mid. And then round 2, they got swept by Tampa. And I think that was the summer. It was that summer or the one after where they brought in Paul Maurice. They switched to more of a dump and chase style. They, of course, made the trade to go out and get Matthew Tkachuk, who fits the more like down low style. They obviously at some point acquired Sam Bennett and just changed their identity. Now, the tricky part is I think we've also seen teams make mistakes in trying to follow the Florida model and go too far in the other direction, where they've lost what made that team so dynamic in the first place. Like, they've gone too far in the extreme, where Toronto Maple Leafs are a good example. They went all in on, like, Brad Treliving comes in and he's like snot and toughness and truculence, all these buzzwords. And so he's going out and acquiring these big, heavy players in the bottom 6 and building a blue line that has a lot of size but can't really move the puck, brings in Craig Berube as head coach. And then all of a sudden you look at the Leafs this year and they're slow, they're old, they don't control possession very well. And you see the results. The New Jersey Devils as well. I think they had the 115-point season and they were this pure rush team. And that's actually an example of a team that, and if you're Montreal, you're hoping they can follow this formula where they went up against the Rangers, that team, and the Rangers were kind of the opposite, where they didn't have nearly as much speed and skill, but what they did have was excellent special teams and Igor Shesterkin. The Devils still found a way to produce offense in that series. I think they took them down in Game 7. They ultimately got taken out in round 2, but like, it at least worked in round 1 against a pretty good Rangers team that year. And then after that, though, the Devils felt, all right, we're a little bit too small. We're a little bit too speed and skill oriented. And then they started to transition their playing style. And that's when they went out and targeted guys like Cotter and just certain blue line acquisitions. They have since brought in Sheldon Keefe, and they've gone away from being a speed and skill rush-based team. They've been a little bit more dump and chase, and you see it now, right? Like, look at the year Jesper Bratt is having. Like, their offensive players are having down years, and they've got other problems as well. Jack Hughes' health and whatnot, but it's just really interesting, where I think for a lot of these young teams, there is a point where you're going to have to learn to score in ways beyond just the rush and be a well-rounded attacking team to have playoff success. But you don't want to go too far in the direction of dump and chase and just chasing the size, because then you lose the speed and dynamic skill.
The chat's bumping with ideas of who these individuals and Canucks fans are rooting for in the playoffs. Buffalo getting a lot of love as well. Expansion cousins, sad club, haven't been in the playoffs in a long time. That's a good one. I'll take Buffalo as well.
Everybody is jumping on their like everyone is going to jump on their bandwagon.
Yes. Myself included.
What I will remind people though is Buffalo, much like Vancouver, is a cursed sports city. Just look what the Bills have dealt with in recent years, having arguably the best quarterback in the league and just not finding a way to get it done. So yes, and I'm saying this is a Habs fan, but like Buffalo would be awesome to see them go on a little run, but the hockey gods will always be against them.
They also, and this is where it's a little bit tricky as well, their goaltending has been lights out. And that's like goaltending can be fickle and their underlines aren't quite as strong. And so don't get me wrong, they're a terrific team. I can see the case for them winning around and going deeper, especially again, East is wide open this year, but they'll need their net minding to continue performing at that level. And you look at the goaltenders they have, they've got Alex Line and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. It's not like you're talking about two high pedigree guys that, I mean, UPL just last year was struggling and the Sabres fans were complaining about his contract. And Alex Line didn't get an opportunity until one of their other goalies got hurt, right? He's been a journeyman guy. So I think for the Sabres to have playoff success, they're going to need their goaltending to keep holding up, which, I mean, we know how volatile goaltending is, right?
Any other ones that you're looking at and saying that that'd be a team I'd be rooting for in the playoffs? I've got Buffalo.
I'm just all in on the young fun teams. Like, I want to see Anaheim make it through the Pacific side of the bracket, rather
Pittsburgh?
than. Yeah, I mean, of course, Sid.
Well, they're not young.
Like, yeah, the issue with Pittsburgh is I don't like. I could see them winning a round, but I don't see them as a threat to do much else. To be completely honest with you,
I think I don't really have a team that I'm like I don't want to see them do a lot in the playoffs, other than like maybe the Minnesota Wild, Nashville, maybe as well. But I don't know. I just hope everyone has fun. There's a few people in the chat that people are like, I don't care as long as Hughes doesn't win anything.
And hey, it makes sense because
sure.
The earlier they get eliminated, the higher the Canucks pick in the first round is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the reason that I'm thinking that.
So guys, I want to ask you guys a question because Quads, you mentioned Cole Caulfield. So in that game against the Islanders, he had a hat trick plus 2 assists. He's on pace for 51 goals this season. The 2019 draft, I'm going to read you the players taken it ahead of Cole Caulfield who fell to 15. I remember
Can we instead turn this into a game where Harmon and I try to name players until we can't name anymore?
Sure,
Don't Google it, Harm. Don't Google
it. We can do that.
Players taken before Caulfield?
Yeah, and I will say I was in the building for this draft, and when Philly had the pick right before him, when they didn't pick Caulfield, I was so happy because he's who I wanted for Montreal the whole way. And I didn't think there was any chance he'd get to 15. So
okay.
Let's go 1 through.
Jack Hughes, Capo Caco, Kirby Doc, Bowen Byram, Alex Turcotte.
Yep. Good so
6
far.
was Sider.
Yeah.
7, I don't remember. 8 was Broberg.
You want me to give you the team that's like
9 was
7?
Zegras.
I want to play too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So back to pick 7. Do you want me to give you the team?
No, don't give us the team yet.
Okay, don't give us the team. After Sider.
So it was
after Sider,
right.
before Broberg.
Yeah.
Give us the team. I want the team.
Yeah.
Okay. So the team is the Buffalo Sabres, and this player that they selected, I was at this draft. His family was sitting 3 rows behind me, and he came up and like talked to them at one point. It was kind of cool.
At 7?
Yeah. Still in the league. He has over 100 career goals. He no longer plays on the Buffalo Sabres, though.
Yeah, I figured this is a guy that's been traded.
7. Yeah.
Well, let's circle back on that one.
Sure.
Yeah. Circle back.
10 Pod Colson.
Yep.
11.
Goldie, no?
Nope. Boldy was 12.
Boldy was
Oh.
12.
So that's fine. We'll give you that. 11. Team was the Arizona Coyotes.
Oh, was it Soderstrom?
It was Victor Soderstrom. Yeah.
Nice pull.
I only know because Faber loved Soderstrom.
Yeah. He's got 12 points in 61 career games.
Wait, was it Paterka?
Nope.
No,
not Paterka.
no.
Brad threw that in the chat. Had to try that. Okay, so Boldy at 12.
Yep.
13 was. Oh, this is the one. That
Another guy similar to number 7, no longer on the team that drafted him, but in the league and a good player in the league. Yeah, he's drafted by Florida.
No, not Tippett, is it?
Not Tippett, no. He's now on a Western Conference team. Canucks have played him at least.
Sorry,
once
what was the
this year.
team again?
Drafted by Florida.
Drafted by Florida.
Drafted by Florida, now on a Western Conference team.
Was it like Farabee or Frost?
Nope. You're
No, I don't think I'm gonna get this one.
Okay. There's a massive hint I could give you that you would get it immediately, but we'll circle back anyways. So 14 is the last pick before Cole Caulfield. Who did the Flyers take? I already mentioned that it was the Flyers.
Isn't that what we were on?
Nope, you're on
13. Cam York?
Correct. Cam York went 14. So
nice.
You didn't get 7 and 13, which again, these guys are both in the league. They're solid players.
Hold on. Let's see. So
Oh,
Buffalo.
the chat's jumped in. I have some guesses because of the chat.
All right.
Okay.
Dylan Cousins at 7?
Correct.
Right,
Dylan Cousins at 7.
Okay, and 13, the chat still hasn't guessed. So 13th.
He drafted by Florida. He now plays for a Western Conference team, and he is a contributor on his Western Conference team. He was a like a well-known prospect, but maybe a little surprising to go at 13.
I have no idea. Give us another hint.
I don't know.
Give us another hint.
And another hint. This is going to give it away. He's the first goalie selected in
Spencer
the draft.
Knight.
Oh yeah,
Spencer Knight.
I should have known that. I feel dumb for this now because that was the draft I through Drance was freelancing it for the Miami Herald. So I literally covered the Panthers drafting Spencer Knight. I somehow forgot about that.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about your Miami Herald days. That's hilarious.
And I will mention Quads at 22nd overall was your boy Tobias Bjornfot, drafted by the LA Kings. Now, anyways, the reason I wanted to bring this up, of those 14 players drafted ahead of Cole Caulfield in a redraft, how many of those guys still go in front of him? Like, knowing what we know now. And again, at the time, Caulfield fell because he was small and there was worries if his offense would translate to the NHL. But he scored at every level he played at. Where would Cole Caulfield go in a redraft of the 2019 draft?
So far, I've got him at 2.
And I'll mention, like, the only players, like, in later rounds that are really notable would be Dorofeyev, I think, was a 3rd-round pick, as was Alexei Protas. But, like, there was no guys in late rounds that are, like, clear top 5 guys.
No, nobody that's going to score 40 goals.
He'd go 2 or 3.
Yeah, he'd go 2 or 3.
So you guys, I would assume you guys still have Jack Hughes at 1.
Jack Hughes 1. And then I could see teams taking Seider potentially ahead of him, right? The year he's having, I don't know. I know he's not putting up a massive point totals, right? He's got, actually don't have it right up in front of me, but he's having a Norris caliber year in terms of his like 2-way impact. And you're talking about like a number 1 defenseman. I think teams would take that even ahead of like a, I think after that, I think you take Caulfield ahead of Boldy, even though Boldy is a superstar in his own right.
Yeah, I would go. I think I would go 1 Hughes, Caulfield 2, Seider 3, Boldy 4. That's probably what I would do.
Yeah, I think those probably are pretty clearly the top 4 in the redraft. And now I'll never forget that. You know, it was in Vancouver. It was I don't know if any of our listeners were at the draft or even just hanging around downtown Vancouver. It was one of the cool hockey experiences I've ever had, just being around the draft. And that was before I worked in the business. I was just there as a fan, and it was a pretty cool experience. And obviously I know things are changing now with the decentralized, but I remember just like waiting to cross the street next to all of the Columbus Blue Jackets draft team. Like it was kind of a cool experience just being there. It felt like you really were just amongst the NHL's elite. So it kind of sucks that we don't get that anymore, but definitely worth attending a draft if you get the opportunity, in my opinion.
Go to Super Chat here.
Go day one. Don't go day 2.
Yes, day 1. Absolutely day 1.
Go to Super Chat here from Spatzilli, who said, "Thank you for the great show." You are welcome. Thank you for joining us for this show. It was a lot of fun. It was a good Monday show. Tomorrow, Dave Hall on the show. Wednesday, J-Pat on the show. Good week of guests this week. All right, Jacob, pull it up. Tankathon. Let's do it. Let's because this is a lot of fun. We all love doing this.
I'm feeling better vibes today. Better vibes today.
We just talked about a lot of draft stuff. Here's the draft lottery. We'll see what happens. Here's the sim. And Vancouver holds at number 1.
Number 1. Look
Chicago
at that.
holding at number 2. So I think this is the first time that we've had the actual draft order be upheld through the lottery. Both Vancouver and Chicago. No movement whatsoever. This is old school.
You can never say I'm not a vibes guy anymore. I said I'm feeling better vibes today.
Yeah.
We got the number 1.
Fair enough. All right. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. If you're tired of waiting for the end of the game to get paid and you're ready to move on to the next puck drop, Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, has 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey moves fast, and now with 3-goal early payout, there's one less thing you have to wait around for. Bet365. Download the app and see what early payout's all about. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. All right. Bet365 bet of the day. Ottawa taking on the New York Rangers. That is the only game on the NHL slate tonight. We are taking the home underdog New York Rangers. Rangers are plus 160 underdogs. That's just too big of a home underdog to pass up on, so that's what we're taking. Plus 160 odds. You can get Rangers money line over at Bet365. Fun show, fellas. Fun show. We'll close it out there. Happy Monday, folks. For my co-host Harmon Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Quadrelli. Thanks so much to the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.